Hello everybody, Luke Schulte, Field Agronomist for Beck's Hybrids, and along with me today is Tyler Shindel. Tyler's our PFR Location Lead here at the London facility, as well as a farmer who has a lot of experience running the combine at harvest. And we're following up after the wind events that came in the aftermath of Helene on September 27th. So we're going to talk a little bit about what are those adjustments that we can make at the field level, as well as in the shop to the combine, to minimize those harvest losses, since a lot of our corn isn't standing like we want. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the why. And I think the reason that some of the corn crop took it better than others really has to do a lot with the weather as well as nitrogen mobility. If we planted at the end of April, beginning of May, unfortunately we hit that dry period in June where we really lack soil moisture in order to get nitrogen mobilized into the plant. That rapid nitrogen uptake period for corn begins around V8 corn, and the corn plant takes it about 7 pounds a day. So it's a lot of nitrogen. And unfortunately, those earlier planting windows, that coincided with a really dry soil environment and really lacked the ability to get nitrogen in the plant. So we're gonna leave a decent amount of nitrogen in the field in those situations. That didn't help our stalk integrity, as well as a crop that was mature, beyond the time frame. It was September 27th, but a lot of our corn crop actually felt like October 27th or the beginning of November. And a lot of that had to do with not only these flash droughts, but also the last 6-7 weeks that we've gone without rain, with abnormally dry weather. And in some cases, this corn actually prematurely died. That's why you're seeing some of the hills have taken it worse. I think our natural tendency is to think, well, that's where they withstood more of the wind, but that's also where they also struggle to get as much nitrogen in the plant and probably even prematurely died even sooner. So that's a little bit about the why. Now Tyler's going to talk a little bit about what do we do at the field level to minimize those harvest losses and make the best of a tough situation.
Yeah, so it's all going to start in the shop, before you even hit the field. Something that we can do is we can change the pitch of our corn head. We want to run it about a 20-degree angle. Why are we running at a 20-degree angle? Because that's going to let that gathering chains be closer to the ground that can reach out and grab them corn plants and bring them in. Now we're going to measure that by dropping the corn head about 2 inches off the ground, the snout's 2 inches off the ground. We're going to get an angle measurement tool. We're going to put that right on the deck plate. So we're going to want to put that right around that 20 to 25-degree angle. Now the next thing we can look at is the gathering chains themselves. Most of the time they're opposed, they're right across from each other, right? What we're going to do now is we're going to change them. We're going to stagger them. When we stagger them, it makes it more aggressive and makes one always trying to reach out to pull something back in. We're going to look at our stripper plates. One thing about the hydraulically adjusted deck plates that we have now, is that fact that only one side adjusts. So we really want to make sure that they're centered over the row. At the same time, they're centered over the row, centered off over the stalk roll, and we want to change, the amount of space we have in between them. We want them to be 1.5 inches in the front and 1.25 inches in the back. Now when we get out to the field, we're going to really look, we're going to have to slow down. We'd like to go as fast as we can and be efficient as possible, but when we get into these types of situations, we're going to want to slow down a little bit. We're going to want to make sure that we're running against the crop, so that way we're pulling the crop up back into our head. Something we can do before as well is take those ear savers off. So when you're pulling that in, if you have the ear savers on, trash can get hung up, and that's where you're going to have a problem. By taking them off, that'll allow that to feed a little bit better into the combine. Now, when we get into it, we want to make sure that our gathering chain speeds are the exact same speed that we're running. We can adjust that by changing a sprocket, maybe changing your feeder house speed to make sure it matches the combine a little bit more. The last thing we want to do is just make sure we're not pushing that crop, that we're pulling that crop in. We're going to probably bring in quite a bit of fluff, right? So if we're bringing in that fluff, we want to probably adjust our fan speed up a little bit and make sure that we're blowing that trash out the back of the combine and the grain isn't running out with that log. And sometimes it might be warranted for a corn reel. We all don't have a corn reel, so I like to take these steps first before we go the corn reel route, before we have to go out and make extra purchases.
Yeah, so Tyler talked about how do we make the best of a tough situation. I think it's also important to keep in mind perspective shift. None of us want to accept any harvest losses, especially when we see whole ears on the ground. We automatically, I believe, feel like, man, we're losing a lot of grain. It's important that we keep in perspective. It takes about 130 to about 150 ears to equate to a single bushel yield loss. So while a whole ear of corn can look like it's pretty devastating, it really doesn't add up quite as fast as at least what our eyes tell. So hopefully you found this information helpful. As always, if you have any questions, how to make the best of this situation, give us a call. We appreciate you tuning in. Have a good day.